Good afternoon, everyone. I am CA Megha Agarwal, moderator of this webinar. We are delighted to welcome you all in the webinar being organized by Continuing Professional Education Committee of ICAI. It is my pleasure to be a moderator for the webinar on penalties under GST and tech transformation, future path for CAs. In a short while, we will start this webinar. I would like to apprise you about the CPE committee. The increasing globalization, continuing developments in the field of finance, and frequent changes in the world economic order have posed numerous challenges before the accounting profession worldwide. These challenges have significant implications on the growth and development of our profession and simultaneously have more expectations from the profession. It is indeed the responsibility of the professional bodies to provide members with adequate facilities and opportunities to meet the challenges thrown by the dynamic environment by continuously enhancing their knowledge, skills, and professional values. With this vision, the CPE Committee of ICAI has been organizing several programs with the help of our program organizing units. We are pleased to inform you that ICAI is organizing its first ever Global Professional Accountants Convention, GLOPAC, on the theme Connecting the Globe, Creating Value from November 24th to November 26th, 2023 at Mahatma Mandir Convention Center, Gandhinagar, Gujarat, India. GLOPAC is being celebrated as a mega event to display the important role that accountancy profession has been playing in building stronger and more stable economies around the globe. It would provide an opportunity to the global market to network with the best F&A talents in India. We would now like to play a teaser of GLOPAC by Ms. Pragya.
I think we are not able to hear the audio, correct? Uh, Pragya, can you play Mr. Manish from your side, this audio? Audio is not visible, just you see, Ms. Pragya, if you can do something. We can do one thing, Meghaji, I think there is some technical glitch and that
Yes, sir, there is some audio problem.
and the technical programs. So this video just will skip here and
Yes,
later on we can do it, Anna. So skipping this we may proceed.
yes, sir, sure, sir.
Yes, yes.
The program for this evening is as follows. We have two sessions of 1 hour each, and topics are first, penalties under GST law, and second is tech transformation, charting the future path for CAs. Our eminent speakers will talk about the above mentioned two emerging areas of professional interest. Please note the medium of communication should be in English only, as the participants from across the globe would be attending the program. I would now like to introduce to you our first speaker, CA Manoj Kumar Goyal. He is an expert in indirect tax and has handled complex indirect tax assignments successfully throughout his career. He has also written numerous articles and books related to indirect taxation. He is a skilled trainer and speaker on indirect taxes and has delivered insightful sessions in approximately 500 workshops and seminars organized by different trade and professional associations. I would now like to transfer the stage to C. Manoj sir. Sir, are you there? We currently have 7 participants.
Uh,
Manojji, we are not able to see your video. Uh, are we audible to you?
is my voice audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, sir. Voice is audible.
Okay, so I'm just trying to switch on my video. I don't know why is it not coming up. But in the
Or you
meantime, we
can
can
exit.
start
Sir, you can exit and then
discussing on the topic
again
of the
log in.
day in case my voice is audible.
Sir, basically, the generally, that participant they request, that video because then they feel. So Meghaji, I think sir is joining. He has exit probably.
Okay, sir.
Meanwhile, I may inform to all the participants these webinars, which are being organized by the committees. Just you because we are receiving the queries, not for CP webinar only, for other committees webinar as well. These webinars are eligible to, grant for unstructured learning activities CP credit, not structured. So for unstructured, a member, after watching these webinars, not of CP committee, of any committee, member need to go on CP portal. They can log in there, and after logging, they can file self-declaration form. This is the way to, claim that unstructured learning credit for any webinar. Because most of the time we are receiving, sir, I watched this webinar, but we have not received any credit of, that particular webinar. So please note all the participants, member has to file those credit on the portal itself by self-claiming. This is one thing. The second, recently we have started sending mass mailer to all the members, individual members, at the end of every month. This month also that will be going. See what is their CP requirement, what is the remaining for the current year, what they did till now, and what is to be done. So please, because this is a useful information being sent to all the members, so please comply with the requirements, what are being given there in the mail itself. Manojji, I think he is able to be connected. We can see. Yes, Manojji, welcome. We can see you, sir. We are waiting for your audio. I think audio is mute, sir, from where you are speaking. Your audio, sir. Video is
I'm sorry.
perfect.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
Is it working now?
yes, yes, correct, sir. Perfect.
My apologies for all the inconvenience.
No, no, it's welcome, sir.
And, at the outset, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity of addressing all the participants. And thank you very much for the CP committee, all the management, including Chairman Sir in absentia, Vice Chairman Sir, and the other dignitaries for allowing me to be a part of this session. And as the topic of the day has been decided to be penalties under GST Act, so I would like to take you through the crucial provisions under GST law, which specifically talks about the penalties provided under various provisions and where and what kind of penalties can be imposed on the taxpayers, as well as in certain cases, even if you're not a taxpayer for that matter, which is registered taxpayer, even in those cases, you might end up liable to pay some penalties. So with this background, let me just try and fix the framework for what all provisions or sections we are going to talk about during next 1 hour or so. and then we'll take it up one by one. So the most important provisions under the GST Act, which provides about the penal provisions, are Section 73, 74, then Section 122 read with 132, then we have Section 129 and Section 130. There are other provisions like Section 123, 24, 25, 26, and 27 as well, which are kind of extended or annexed provisions pertaining to the other sections, which are the principal sections for penalties. So we can talk about those as well in brief. But majorly, the sections that we're going to cover are 73, 74, 122, 129, 130, and all that read with Section 132. So first of all, let's take up Section 73 and then followed it up by Section 74. So let me just bring the screen, which is the bare law, to your... I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, sir, it has started.
Yeah.
Yes, now visible.
Yeah. So beginning with Section 73, I think these are the backbone sections 73 and 74 of the Act. And all of us who've been taking even the little bit of interest in the GST laws would know these two sections by heart. So we will not spend too much time on these two sections because I think everyone would be aware about the basic provisions. So we will take them quickly and then move forward to more crucial but lesser known provisions where people generally don't get the kind of exposure, or maybe they don't come across the penalties and other provisions on day-to-day basis. So Section 73 briefly talks about a situation where a proper officer is supposed to determine the tax which is short paid, erroneously refunded, or input tax wrongly availed or utilized. So there could be situations where somebody has short paid or not paid a tax, or an erroneous refund has been claimed, or an input tax credit which was not eligible has been claimed. So all this determination can take place under Section 73, which inter alia also provides about the penal provisions under the law. So not going into the clause by clause discussion, we will just briefly talk about how this section works and what kind of penal consequences we can face under this section. So most importantly, a proper officer has to issue a notice, and there is a timeline prescribed under this section, which says that in case there is no fraud or any willful misstatement or suppression of facts, but some short payment of tax or non-payment of tax or wrong availment of ITC or erroneous refund has been claimed, then in all those cases, the proper officer is supposed to issue a show cause notice, and that show cause notice has to be adjudicated properly. So in case a show cause notice under Section 73 is issued, then the timeline suggests that 3 years from the due date of filing of the annual return of a particular financial year, or the actual date of filing of the annual return, whichever is earlier, from that date you have to calculate 3 years to reach to the timeline till when a conclusion or an adjudication can take place. But more importantly, the notice under this section can only be issued at least 3 months prior to the deadline given. So which means practically 2 years and 9 months from the date of filing of the annual return is the timeline under which you can expect a notice. And of course, just to let you know that for 2017-18, there was an extension of timeline under Section 73 for issuing notices, and that is why that extended timeline has now got concluded in the month of September 2023 after a couple of extensions. So now, at least under Section 73, we cannot expect any show cause notices for the financial year 17-18. Of course, the following financial years like 18-19 onwards are still open as far as 73 is concerned. So 73, as the preamble suggests, is a situation where the intention of the taxpayer was neither fraudulent nor any willful misstatement was given or any facts were suppressed. So in this case, the provisions regarding penalty are much lenient compared to the other provision, which is in section 74. So 73 says that in case a taxpayer voluntarily comes forward and pays the tax, depending on whether a notice under section 73 is either issued, or even if the notice is not issued but communicated to the taxpayer and the taxpayer agrees to pay, then there is no penal consequence. You just need to pay the tax and that is it. But in case you don't deposit even after issuance of the show cause notice and within the stipulated timelines of 30 days, then you have to pay a minimum penalty, which could be 10%. And then it goes in terms of it increases with the timelines, and the taxpayer decides not to pay, then of course the penalty keeps increasing accordingly. So section 73 briefly is the first section which talks about the penal consequences, and the consequences are driven from a situation where somebody has either not paid the tax, short paid the tax, erroneously claimed a refund, or input tax credit, which is wrongly availed, like an ineligible input tax credit being availed. So that is section 73, and the penalties percentages right from 10% to it can go up to 50%, depending on the timelines under which you decide to make the payment of the tax as adjudicated under this show cause notice. So that's 73. Now, coming to another section, which is parallel to 74, but a little bit of a difference. So it is a section where the determination of tax takes place in a situation where somebody has been alleged to commit a fraud or a willful misstatement or suppression of facts. So if the taxpayer has been alleged to have either done something fraudulently, or by giving a willful misstatement, or by suppressing some facts, then in similar situations, the notice under section 74 can be issued, and the penal consequences under section 74 are obviously, for obvious reasons, are a little harsh compared to section 73. So an adjudicating officer similarly will have to adjudicate the show cause notice, and depending on the timelines during which you have to you decide to pay tax, the penalty percentage will keep increasing, the minimum being 15% and the highest being 100% of the tax evaded. So the timelines under section 74 for issuing a notice is more compared to what it was in 73. So as we discussed, 73 is 3 years. The adjudication has to take place within 3 years from the the due date of filing of the annual return. In this case, the period goes up to 5 years from the due date of filing of the annual return. And of course, you have to issue a notice at least 6 months prior to the deadline, which means that it has to be issued not later than by 4.5 years from the date of annual return filing. So here, as I said, similar to section 73, the provisions under 74 are same, that an officer, the proper officer, will have to issue a notice and then adjudicate the short payment, non-payment of fraudulent refund, or a wrong availment of ITC. And accordingly, a penalty can be imposed, a minimum penalty of 15% and a maximum penalty of 100%, depending on the timelines during which you decide to make the payments. So we are not getting into more details for the simple reason that these two sections, I believe, anybody and everybody would have gone through and faced during various notices and other proceedings. So rather, I would like to spend some more time on differently crucial provisions under the penalties, and which I believe are comparatively less conversant to the common practitioners, because they've yet not been explored as much as these two sections, 73 and 74, have been explored. So moving on to the next provision, 122. So this is the main section provided under the CGST Act, which talks about at least 21 situations where a penalty can be imposed. So we'll take them up one by one, and then we'll see what kind of penalty can be imposed for what kind of violation in the provisions. So just a second, I think this is... Yeah. So this is section 122 on the screen, and it starts with the subsection 1 saying where a taxable person who. So most important thing to note is that this entire section prominently applies on the taxable persons. So taxable person is already defined in the GST law, and it says that a taxable person is not necessarily required to be registered under the GST, but a person who was supposed to be registered, but for some reason has not taken registration, will also be categorized under this definition, which is the taxable person. So this section applies to not only the people who are registered under GST, but also who were liable to be registered but have not obtained registration for whatever reason. So subsection 1 has many clauses. So all the clauses talks about a different kind of a violation in the provisions of the Act, and accordingly a penalty has been prescribed. So we will take up all the important clauses out of this, and we will see as to how they are different from the basic section 73 and 74. So the first clause of section 122 subsection 1 says supplies where a taxable person who supplies any goods or services or both without issue of any invoice or issues an incorrect or false invoice with regard to any such supply. So this is one violation where a taxable person supplies any goods or services or both without issuance of any invoice, or the issued invoice is incorrect or false with regard to any such supply. So that's the offense number 1. Issues any invoice or bill without supply of goods or services or both in violation of the provisions of this Act or the rules made thereunder. One situation where a person has supplied goods but has not issued invoice. Other situation, a person has issued the invoice but has not made any supply of goods or services. Both of them are covered under 122 for appropriate penal action. Third one is collects any amount as tax but fails to pay the same to the government beyond a period of 3 months from the date on which such payment becomes due. Now, this clause is very, very important, and we all must need to know that under GST law, the only mechanism to pay taxes is by filing a GSTR 3B return, or in certain specific cases, a voluntary payment through the form DRC03. Now, this clause talks about a situation where somebody has collected the taxes but has not paid beyond a period of 3 months to the government. So which means that even if you in your normal course of business are collecting taxes from your customers or your recipients but are not depositing the same with the exchequer, and the reason in certain cases would be that probably you've not deposited your returns in time. So in case return is delayed beyond a period of 3 months, then technically it falls under this clause. Even if you're paying interest, even if you're paying the late fees or at the time of filing of your return, but still, as far as this clause number 3 is concerned, you can still be caught under this, and the consequences are grave. So please be reminded that any taxes collected on behalf of the government will have to be deposited within a period of 3 months maximum. Otherwise, you can get caught in the clause number 3 of section 122 subsection 1. So at the bottom of these clauses, we will get to know what kind of a penalty can be imposed of violation. So we've spoken about 3 clauses. The fourth one, collects any tax in contravention of the provisions of this Act but fails to pay to the government beyond a period of 3 months from the date on which such payment becomes due. So the fourth clause again, the third one is that you are legitimately collecting the taxes but not depositing beyond a point of 3 months. Fourth clause says that even if you have collected some tax which you were not supposed to, you have collected the tax by contravening the provisions, means that the supply that you made was probably not liable for tax collection. But since you have collected on behalf of the government, you have no business retaining that amount with you beyond a period of 3 months. Again, if you don't deposit this wrongly collected tax, you will end up getting a penalty notice under section 122, is similar to what you can in clause number 3. So 5 says fails to deduct the tax in accordance with the provisions of subsection 1 of 51. So it means that people who are liable to deduct taxes under section 51 as per the provisions of the CGST Act, if you fail to deduct the TDS, then again you will be liable for the same penalty. Fails to collect tax in accordance with the provisions of subsection 1 of 52. Similarly, for e-commerce operators, where section 52 makes you liable to deduct TCS as per the provisions of section 52. And if you don't do so, then you will again be liable for penalty under section 122. Takes or utilizes input tax credit without actual receipt of goods or services, or both, either fully or partially, in contravention of the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder. So another violation is that if you've taken and utilized input tax credit without actual receipt of goods or services, or both, either fully or partially, in contravention of the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder. So simple words, if you take input tax credit on the basis of some fake invoices, you can be made liable to pay penalties under section 122. Fraudulently obtains refund of tax under this act. So if you have claimed a refund which was not legitimately due to you and you've taken the refund fraudulently, then you are liable to pay penalties. Takes or distributes input tax credit in contravention of section 20 or the rules made thereunder. So we know section 20 is about ISD, the input service distributor. So in case you have distributed some tax under section 20 being ISD beyond the rules of or section 20, then you will be liable to pay penalty. And falsifies or substitutes financial records or produces fake accounts or documents or furnishes any false information or return with an intention to evade payment of tax due under this act. Again, if you have falsified or substituted the financial records or produced fake accounts or documents or furnishes any false information with an intention to evade tax, then also you will be liable to a penalty under section 122. Is liable to be registered under this act but fails to obtain registration. Now, this again is a very, very serious offense. So please be reminded that in case somebody is liable to get registered and does not obtain registration and takes probably the registration and pays all the taxes also afterwards, then even this penalty under section 122 can be imposed on the person. So it is not only about taking a registration at a later date and paying all the due taxes right from the beginning when you were liable. You can still be held responsible for penalty under section 122. Furnishes any false information with regard to registration particulars either at the time of applying for registration or subsequently. So any information that you furnish with the department at the time of obtaining a registration or subsequently can lead you to a penalty under this section. Then obstructs or prevents any officer in discharge of his duties under this act, transports any taxable goods without the cover of documents as may be specified in this behalf. So that is another big issue, that for a transporter who transports any goods from one place to another without the cover of the documents which are prescribed under the law, and the documents prescribed are generally in section 67, 68, and then coupled with rule 138. You need to be mindful that whenever you are transporting the goods, you have to have proper documents along with the transport. Suppresses his turnover leading to evasion of tax under this act, or fails to keep, maintain, or retain books of accounts and other documents in accordance with the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder. So this is again a very, very important point, that even if you have not maintained or retained the books of accounts or other documents in accordance with the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder, then you may be held liable for penalty under section 122. So why am I emphasizing on this point is because in many cases, I have seen that people with multiple registrations at multiple locations, I mean, more than one state, would generally keep all their records at one place, which is their corporate or head office, and do not keep the records or other documents required under the law at various places they are registered at. So this is again a violation. So we all have to be mindful that if we have multiple registrations, that then at all the places where we are registered, we need to maintain the minimum documents or other records required under the law. Fails to furnish information or documents called for by an officer in accordance with the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder, or furnishes false information or documents during any proceedings under this act. So it is very important to ensure that we are not submitting any information which is incorrect or false it can lead to penalty under section 122. Supplies, transports, or stores any goods which he has reasons to believe are liable to confiscation under this act. So now confiscation comes in section 130. So we have to see that section 130 talks about confiscation. So any goods which are liable to be confiscated as per section 130 of this act, if a person either stores them as a warehouse owner or transports them as a transporter, then he will also be liable for a penalty under this section, even though he is not the owner of those goods. Issues any invoice or documents by using the registration number of another registered person. So that's again contravention which can lead to penalty in case you use a wrong GST registration number for issuing the invoice. Tampers with or destroys any material evidence or document. And the last one, disposes of or tampers with any goods that have been detained, seized, or attached under this act. So if you are tampering with any of the goods which have already been either detained or seized or attached under this act, then you will be liable for penalty under section 122. So now this closes the total number of clauses under this section are 21. And we've gone through them one by one just to kind of reaffirm that what all can lead to a situation where a penalty can be imposed. Now, what will be the magnitude or quantum of the penalty? So it says that he shall be liable to pay a penalty of 10,000 rupees or an amount equivalent to the tax evaded or the tax not deducted under section 51 or short deducted but not paid to the government, or tax not collected under section 52 or short collected or collected but not paid to the government, or input tax credit availed of or passed on or distributed irregularly, or the refund claimed fraudulently, whichever is higher. So what it says is that the minimum penalty would be 10,000, but a penalty otherwise would be 100% equivalent to the tax evaded. So for imposing penalty under this section 122, one thing which is very important is that the evasion of tax has to be established. So unless in a particular offense, the establishment of tax evasion does not take place, then the penalty cannot be imposed beyond 10,000 rupees. But otherwise, in case the tax evasion is established, then in all the cases, penalty can be up to 100% of the tax evasion. So now it is very important to understand that all the offenses number 1 to 21 may have a duplicate impact in certain cases. So for example, when we go to section 73 or 74, there are separate provisions under which penalty can be imposed. As we discussed that in 73, there can be chances that ranging from 10% to 50% of the value of tax can be demanded as penalty. And in section 74, ranging between 15% to 100% of the tax value can be demanded as penalty. But the most important thing is that penalty under section 122 could override the provisions of these two sections, 73 and 74. And there are situations where the penalties can be demanded both in section 73, 74 as well as in section 122, depending on the facts and circumstances of the matter. So it is very important for all of us to be knowing about each and every provision specifically in section 122, because I feel 122 is the backbone in terms of understanding of the provisions pertaining to penalties. Now, later on, this was not in the original act, but later on there was a further section introduced after 122 subsection 1, which is very, very critical, which is section 1 capital A. So it says any person who retains the benefit. Now, here it is not talking about the taxable person. Previously, section 122 subsection 1 was talking about a taxable person, but here any person, for that matter, even if a person was neither registered nor was supposed to be registered, those people can also be covered under section 122 subsection 1 capital A. So it says any person who retains the benefit of a transaction covered under clauses 1, 2, 7 or clause 9 of subsection 1, and at whose instance such transaction is conducted, shall be liable to a penalty of an amount equivalent to the tax evaded or input tax credit availed or passed on. So there are only 4 clauses which have been covered. Out of 21, Section 122 subsection 1A only talks about 4 specific clauses, but all these clauses are applicable to not only the registered persons, but also rather the taxable persons, but also to any person. So what are these 4 clauses which are very important? 7, 9, 1 and 2. So let's have a look once again as to what these clauses are. 1, supplies any goods or services or both without issue of invoice or issues an incorrect invoice. So that falls under the category of 1A, section 122 1A as well. The first clause, the second as well. Issues any invoice or bill without supply of goods or services or both in violation of the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder. So that's the second clause, where you have issued any invoice but not made any supply corresponding to that is also a subject matter of penalty under 1A. Then the 7, clause number 7, takes or utilizes input tax credit without actual receipt of goods or services or both, either fully or partially in contravention of the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder. So that is clause 7. And the last clause is clause 9, takes or distributes input tax credit in contravention of section 20. It was 9 only, or just one second? Yeah. So the clause 9 talks about the availment of input tax credit out of ISD distribution, which is in violation of the act. So these 4 clauses have a ripple effect. One, of course, all these clauses can be covered under section 122 subsection 1, but these 4 clauses can also be covered under 122 1A. So how 1A is different is that, one, it is applicable to any person, and second, it is applicable only when a person who was not a registered person or taxable person can be made liable under this act for penalty only if he actually retains the benefit out of this transaction. So this is subsection 1A. Now another section which has been introduced later on is 1B. So 122 1B again is a very crucial section. It says any electronic commerce operator who allows the supply of goods or services or both through it by an unregistered person other than a person exempted from registration by a notification issued under this act to make such supply. So this section actually has been brought into the law along with some other changes, where now the law allows a person to be a composition dealer and still doing some transactions on the electronic commerce platforms. So initially, the composition scheme came with a rider that if you want to avail the benefits of a composition scheme, you cannot be trading through an e-commerce operator. But now these small time traders have been allowed to avail the benefit of composition scheme and also trade on the e-commerce platform. But on the other side, the e-commerce platforms have been given a much severe responsibility by way of introducing this section. So the first clause of 1B says that in case an electronic commerce operator allows a supply of goods or services or both to it by an unregistered person other than a person exempted from registration by a notification issued under this act to make such supply. So that is clause number 1, where it says that an electronic commerce operator cannot allow a person to trade on its platform unless it is registered. Only in cases where a person was allowed not to be registered as per a notification can work on an e-commerce operator. Otherwise, an e-com operator can be held to be liable penalty under this subsection. Second, allows an interstate supply of goods or services or both to it by a person who is not eligible to make such interstate supplies. So the second one is similarly, if an e-commerce operator allows somebody to make interstate supplies through its platform who is otherwise not allowed to do so. So a person who is a composition dealer is not supposed to make an interstate supply. So that is where they've put the onus on the e-commerce operator that a person who has taken the benefit of composition scheme cannot be allowed to do transactions through this e-commerce operator. Third one, fails to furnish the correct details in the statement to be furnished under subsection 4 of 52 of any outward supply of goods effected through it by a person exempted from obtaining registration under this act. So the third one, it says that under section 52, clause 4, all the e-commerce operators are supposed to give all the details regarding people who have done transactions on their platforms and who are not registered. So any person who is not registered but has done some business through an e-commerce platform, the correct information has to be supplied by the e-commerce operator to the respective department through its GST registration number. Otherwise, they can still be held responsible for penalty under this clause. So, subsection 1 talks about the general clauses applicable to all the taxable persons. Subsection 1A talks about a specific situation where only 4 clauses are applicable on any person, subject to the condition that the person retains the benefit arising out of this transaction. And 1B talks about an electronic commerce operator who is not complying with the basic requirements can lead to have a penalty under this section. Now, what will be the magnitude of penalty? It says shall be liable to a penalty of 10,000 rupees or an amount equivalent to the amount of tax evaded had such supply been made by a registered person other than a person paying tax under section 10, whichever is higher. So it says that the penalty on e-commerce operator can go up to the value of tax evaded in case any such situation arises where a person unregistered is making some supplies who was not supposed to be unregistered. A composition dealer is making some supplies on interstate basis, which he was not supposed to, or the e-commerce operator is not providing the complete information, then he can also be held liable for penalty. So this is about section 121, subsection 1, 1A and 1B. So now we come to subsection 2 of 122, again a very important section. Any registered person who supplies any goods or services or both on which the tax has not been paid or short paid or erroneously refunded or where the input tax credit has been wrongly availed or utilized. For any reason other than the reason of fraud or willful misstatement, suppression of facts to evade tax shall be liable to a penalty of 10,000 rupees or 10% of the tax due from such person, whichever is higher. So subsection 2 says that if the intention of the person was not mala fide or was leading to a fraudulent case or a willful misstatement or suppression of facts, then the maximum penalty could be 10% of the tax evaded. Now we can correlate this with section 73 also, where it says that a penalty in case of a situation where the mala fide intention was not established, then the maximum penalty could be 10% of the tax evaded. For the reason of fraud or any willful misstatement or suppression of facts to evade tax shall be liable to a penalty equal to 10,000 rupees or the tax due from such person, whichever is higher. So this is a second situation where someone has evaded the tax with the intention of evasion, and during that process he has either acted fraudulently or some willful misstatement has been given or some crucial facts have been suppressed. In that case, the maximum amount of penalty can go up to 100% of the tax evaded. Now, subsection 3 also has certain provisions about any person who aids or abets any of the offenses specified in clause 1 to 21 of subsection 1, or B, acquires possession of or in any way concerns himself in transporting, removing, depositing, keeping, concealing, supplying, or purchasing, or in any other manner deals with any goods which he knows or has reasons to believe are liable to confiscation under this act or the rules made thereunder, receives or is in any way concerned with the supply of or in other manner deals with any supply of services which he knows or has reasons to believe are in contravention of the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder, fails to appear before the officer of central tax when issued with a summon for appearance to give evidence or produce a document in an inquiry, fails to issue invoice in accordance with the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder, or fails to account for an invoice in his books of account shall be liable to a penalty which may extend up to 25,000 rupees. So all these offenses covered in clause A, B, C, D, E can lead to a penalty up to rupees 125,000. So now, as I said, 122 is the basic penalty provision, and then it is supported by some other sections which are kind of annex sections. So we will take them up very quickly. 123 is penalty for failure to furnish information return. So there is a provision under section 150 which talks about an information return. So if somebody does not file the information return within time, then it can lead to a penalty, but the maximum amount of penalty will be 5,000 rupees. Likewise, there is a penalty under Section 124 for fine for failure to furnish statistics. Under Section 151, if somebody does not file the required information or statistics, then a maximum penalty of up to 25,000 rupees can be imposed. Section 125 talks about a general penalty. So general penalty is a penalty which is not covered under, the offense is not covered under any other provision of the law. So it says any person who contravenes of any of the provisions of the act or the rules made thereunder, for which no penalty is separately provided for this act, shall be liable to a penalty which may extend up to 25,000 rupees. So there is a general penalty of up to 25,000 rupees, which can be charged at the maximum in case a violation happens, but no specific penalty has been provided against that violation. Then 126, general disciplines. It is very important. Somebody can always take the shelter of general disciplines given in Section 126. So whenever we fight out a penalty, we can just try and see if the case falls under Section 126 or no. So it says no officer under this act shall impose any penalty for minor breaches of tax regulations or procedural requirements, and in particular any omission or mistake in documentation which is easily rectifiable and made without fraudulent intent or gross negligence. So it says that, and there are certain explanations also given as to what all kind of situations can be considered under 126 and not applying penalty. So I'm not reading all of them out, but 126 is something where you can always take a shelter, saying that this particular omission was not liable to a penalty under Section 122, or for that matter, any other penalty whatsoever. So now coming to 127, which is a very, very crucial, very small 4-line section, but very crucial. So you would find in your day-to-day practice a lot of orders coming in where the penalties have been imposed under Section 127. So it says where the proper officer is of the view that a person is liable to a penalty and the same is not covered under any proceedings under Section 62, 63, 64, or Section 73, 74, or Section 129 or Section 130, he may issue an order levying such penalty after giving a reasonable opportunity of being heard to such person. So 127 is a section where they can pass an order imposing penalty specifically in cases where the penalties cannot be imposed under 62, 63, 64, 73, 74, 129, 130. So this is a section through which you can impose penalty under other provisions of law, which are beyond these sections mentioned here. Power to waive penalty or fee or both. Again, there are certain powers vested with the authorities to waive penalties. We'll not talk about this in detail because we are left with only probably 10 minutes, and I have a very crucial section to cover before we wrap up. That is Section 129. So Section 129 is specifically applied in cases where the goods are detained or seized or finally confiscated while they are on movement through road. So we'll read through these provisions, and some very important critical issues may emerge out of this. So Section 129 starts with detention, seizure, and release of goods and conveyance in transit. So it says, notwithstanding anything contained in this act, most importantly, this section overrides all other provisions of the act. So 129 is an overriding section where any person transports any goods or stores any goods while they are in transit in contravention of the provisions of this act. So it means the important factor of applying Section 129 is that the goods have to be in transit. So this section applies only when the goods are in transit. Either they are in some transport or they could be stored somewhere, but during the transit period only. So contravention of the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder, all such goods and conveyances used as a means of transport for carrying the said goods and documents relating to such goods and conveyance shall be liable to detention or seizure, and after detention or seizure shall be released. So it says, number one, it talks about a situation where the goods are in movement. Otherwise, 129 is not applicable. Second is that it does not talk about any tax evasion. It only talks about a situation where some contravention takes place even if there is no intention to evade any tax, because it only talks about all such goods and conveyances used as a means of transport for carrying the said goods and documents relating to such goods and conveyance shall be liable to detention or seizure, and after detention or seizure shall be released. A. On payment of penalty equal to 200% of the tax payable on payment of penalty equal to 200% of the tax payable on such goods, and in case of exempted goods, on payment of an amount equal to 2% of the value of goods or 25,000 rupees, whichever is less, where the owner of the goods comes forward for payment of such penalty. So there are two situations envisaged in the law. Number one, the owner of the goods who is generally not available at the time of interception of goods. When the goods are moving on road, then generally there'll be a transport in charge or a person who is a driver of the conveyance will only come forward, and spontaneously the owner of the goods will generally not be available to come forward. So there are two situations. One, it says that where the owner of the goods comes forward, then 200% of the tax payable will be penalty, or in case the goods are non-taxable, then 2% of the value of goods or 25,000 rupees, whichever is less, could be the penalty which you pay and get your goods released. So number one, this section is different from all other sections where penalties have been prescribed, in the sense that this only is applicable during the movement of goods or transit of goods. Number two, it does not talk about the intention of evasion. It only talks about the contravention in the provisions, which could be a minor contravention in terms of carrying the documents also. So number two, it says that there could be two situations. One, when the owner himself does not come forward to claim the goods and pay the penalty, then in that case 200% then in that case 200% of the tax payable will be the value of penalty in case the owner himself offers to pay the penalty. Clause B says on payment of penalty equivalent to 50% of the value of goods or 200% of the tax payable on such goods, whichever is higher, and in case of exempted goods on payment of an amount equal to 5% of the value of goods or 25,000 rupees, whichever is less. So the second situation is where the owner himself does not come forward to pay the penalty, then the value of penalty in general cases will be higher, because it says 50% of the value of the goods. At first place, it says 200% of tax payable, which in all practical situations will be lesser, uh, unless the goods are taxed at a 28% rate. Otherwise, it will be lesser in the case the owner comes forward to pay the penalty and get the goods released. But in case the owner does not come forward, then it will be a higher level of penalty, which is 50% of the value of the goods. So clause C, upon furnishing a security equivalent to the amount payable under clause A or clause B in such form and manner as may be prescribed. So clause C says that the penalty may not necessarily be paid in cash. It could also be paid by way of giving a guarantee, a bank guarantee or a bond. So that's another form of payment of penalty. But in any case, you will have to get your goods released only upon payment of penalty. There's no other choice. Provided that no such goods or conveyance shall be detained or seized without serving an order of detention or seizure on the person transporting the goods. The proper officer detaining or seizing the goods or conveyance shall issue a notice within 7 days of detention of seizure or seizure specifying the penalty payable, and thereafter pass an order within a period of 7 days from the date of service of such notice for payment of penalty under clause A or clause B of subsection 1. No penalty shall be determined under subsection 3 without giving the person concerned an opportunity of being heard. On payment of the amount referred to in subsection 1, all proceedings in respect of the notice specified in subsection 3 shall be deemed to be concluded. And where the person transporting any goods or the owner of such goods fails to pay the amount of penalty under subsection 1 within 15 days of the receipt of the Copy of the order passed under subsection 3, the goods or conveyance so detained or seized shall be liable to be sold or disposed of otherwise in such manner and within such time as may be prescribed to recover the penalty payable under subsection 3. So there are a couple of provisos also, which I'm skipping for the moment. But to conclude this, section 129 talks about a situation where the goods are on the move, whether they are in transit, maybe stored somewhere or in a conveyance. Then if there is any contravention of the provision of the law, irrespective of whether the intention was to evade tax or not, can be detained and seized and only released upon payment of penalty. And that penalty, of course, is you can dispute that penalty order if you feel aggrieved with the order, but the provision is very plain that the goods will not be released unless you pay the penalty as prescribed in the law. So the penalty is of two types: one, 200% of the tax; second, 50% of the value of goods, depending on whether the owner of the goods comes forward to pay the penalty or not. Now, the last one for the day. Quickly, section 130, which is confiscation of goods or conveyance and levy of penalties. So earlier, before Finance Act 2021, effective from January 2022, these two sections were like intermingling. 129 and 130 were kind of interconnected sections. But after making certain amendments, now section 129 and 130 are two different sections. They are not dependent on each other or like interconnected anymore. So it says any person supplies or receives any goods in contravention of any of the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder with the intent to evade payment of tax, or does not account for any goods on which he is liable to pay tax under this act, or supplies any goods liable to tax under this act without having applied for registration, or contravenes any of the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder with intent to evade payment of tax, or uses any conveyance as a means of transport for carriage of goods in contravention of the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder, unless the owner of the conveyance proves that it was so used without the knowledge or connivance of the owner himself, his agent, if any, and the person in charge of the conveyance. So these are certain situations where any person can be held to be liable for confiscation under section 130, provided any of the offenses given from clause number Roman 1 to Roman 5 takes place, then all such goods or conveyances shall be liable to confiscation and the person shall be liable to penalty under section 122. So this section pertains to confiscation and not detention and seizure the way it is in 129. So 130 is quite different, where in case of the offenses mentioned from clause number Roman 1 to 5, there can be a situation where your goods can be confiscated. And whenever confiscation of any goods or conveyance is authorized by this act, the officer adjudging it shall give the owner of the goods an option to pay in lieu of confiscation such fine as the said officer thinks fit. So this section is totally different from 129, where it directly talks about the confiscation. So the first proviso, it says that such fine leviable shall not exceed the market value of the goods confiscated less the tax chargeable thereon. So the maximum penalty or fine which can be imposed in lieu of confiscation of goods could be the market value of the goods minus the tax chargeable thereon. Provided further that the aggregate of such fine and penalty leviable shall not be less than the penalty equal to 100% of the tax payable on such goods. So it can neither be less than 100% of the tax payable, nor it can be more than the market value less the tax payable. The fine could be somewhere in between these two figures. So provided also that where any such conveyance is used for carriage of goods or passengers or for hire, the owner of the conveyance shall be given an option to pay in lieu of the confiscation of the conveyance a fine equal to the tax payable on the goods being transported thereon. So there is an option where the goods owner himself doesn't come forward. Then in that case, if the conveyance or transport owner wants to get his conveyance released, then he can pay the amount equivalent to the tax payable on those goods and he can get his conveyance released. No order for confiscation of goods or conveyance or for imposition of penalty shall be issued without giving the person an opportunity of being heard. Where any goods or conveyance are confiscated under this act, the title of such goods or conveyance shall thereupon vest in the government. The proper officer adjudging confiscation shall take and hold possession of the things confiscated, and every officer of police on the requisition of such proper officer shall assist him in taking and holding of such possession. The proper officer may, after satisfying himself that the confiscated goods or conveyance are not required in any other proceedings under this act, and after giving reasonable time not exceeding 3 months to pay fine in lieu of confiscation, dispose of such goods or conveyance and deposit the sale proceeds thereof with the government. So now I don't think the time is going to permit us anymore. But just to conclude, once again, I'll just revise whatever we've discussed. Number one, we've spoken about section 73 and 74. 73 and 74 is basically situation where the tax officer or a proper officer determines a case of non-payment, short payment, wrong availment of ITC or fraudulent claim of refunds arises. Then in that case, section 73 will apply in case there is no mala fide intention, for that matter, the fraudulent intention or the suppression of facts or willful misstatement. Then in that case, 73 will be applicable. In all other cases where there is a fraudulent intent, section 74 will be applicable. The percentage of penalty in both cases ranges differently. 73 is 10% to 50%, 74 is 15% to 100%. Then we come to section 122 where we have 21 clauses. Then 122 has further two subsections, 122 1A and 1B, which are more specific to certain scenarios only. Then we have section 122 subsection 2, which talks about the magnitude or quantum of penalty. And then we came to section 123, 24, 25, 26, 27, etc., where these are next provisions related to penalties. And then finally, section 129 about the situations where the goods are on the move, in transit, and then 130 where confiscation can take place in case of certain violations of the provisions. So that is in brief what we could cover. And with this, I would like to hand over the mic to Meghaji, who is the moderator of the day. And in case there are any follow-up questions, we can quickly take them up. But otherwise, I think we're already running behind our schedule. With this, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving such a nice lecture. We do have a few questions. I would like to raise them. Can section 73 be converted to section 74?
No, it is the other way around. Section 73 cannot be converted into 74, but vice versa can always happen.
Okay. And second question is, will section 122(2)(3) get attracted if the invoice is issued but not paid, since the word used is collected? Does this violate the law as collection from customer has not taken place?
See, to that extent, yes, you're right. But collection cannot be only the tax value. So in case the entire amount of the invoice, including the base value plus the tax, has not been collected, then yes, you are right, the collection has not hit. But the law provides that in case a partial payment is also there, then you can't say that this payment is only on account of your base value. Every single amount that you receive from the recipient of services or goods will be both, like a proportionate value of tax will be always included there. So my understanding is that if there is an invoice which is completely not paid, then yes, you can say that there was no collection. But in case a partial payment has been received, then to that extent, the proportionate collection has taken place.
Thank you, sir. And next question is, in case of section 73, can they also invoke section 122 in same notice?
See, very difficult because not impossible. In certain cases, 73 can go along with 122, but 74, there could be a very likely situation that 122 can be invoked, but nobody stops. These are two independent sections. If somebody has a reason on one side to say that this was an unintentional kind of non-payment or short payment under section 73, and on the other side, he can say that some violation has taken place. For that matter, out of 21 clauses, I'll just give you an example that one of the clauses is that even if you interrupt with the activities of a proper officer in certain cases, it can lead to a penalty under section 122. So for that matter, the case is of 73. But if you obstruct or do not kind of cooperate with the officer concerned, then 122 can also come in place.
Okay, sir. And one last question. Does section 122(1)(a) cover consultants as well? Where ITC has been availed, can it be held as offense and the consultant can be penalized? Like where the invoice is not issued and
See,
the
one
IT.
A, yeah. So yes, very much. Number one, 122(1)(a) applies to every person. And the intention is to cover all those people who are otherwise neither registered nor liable to be registered. But then the litmus test is whether you have retained any benefits arising out of that transaction. So if there is a proof that the benefit arising out of that transaction has been retained by a consultant, then a consultant can definitely be held liable for this. But if he does not, or there is no proof of retaining any benefit arising out of that section, then a consultant cannot be held responsible.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for giving us such a wonderful lecture. It was really nice listening to you, and I really enjoyed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, I would now like to introduce our next speaker, CA Rushabh M. Shah. He has 15 years of professional work experience in management consultancy, startup advisory, investment banking, and business research. He is highly experienced in mergers and acquisitions, having spearheaded multiple high value deals. He is also an expert in venture capital, private equity funding, with a proven track record of successful fundraisings. So, Rushabh, sir, I would now like to pass on the stage to you.
Yeah, thank you, Meghaji, for the introduction. Probably we'll have to ask Manoj sir to please stop the screen sharing so that I can just take it up. Okay, so thank you, Meghaji. We'll begin the session, which is primarily on the tech transformation and what the future unfolds for us as profession. I'm sharing my screen. Do let me know once it's visible.
So right now it's not visible.
Yeah, sure. One sec. So this is how I undertake things. I think it should be visible now.
Yes, it's now. Yes, now it's visible.
Right. So generally, whenever I take some sessions, I try to keep it very interactive and very practical. So this is just a small presentation, which is hardly going to last 10 to 15 minutes, and then probably we are going to discuss how actually these things are going to change our profession, how we are going to benefit out of it. So thank you first of all for this opportunity of taking the session. Uh, Technology is probably the base at which we are seeing a huge change in the world. Like the way things are shaping up, it's like it's going to change in the next 2 to 3 years. But right now we are in the stage where if we channelize this to our advantage, we will have a relatively greater first mover advantage over the other professions. So on that basis, what I could see is, like as I said, technology it doesn't just change the game; it writes a new rule book. So for professionals like us, when we start adopting and embracing technology in our routine practice or other areas, it is not just going to create or it is not just going to give us an edge, but it is going to define newer ways of things. And just to put a context, Ernst and Young, KPMG, and these people are spending like anything. Like the recent thing which I read, like Ernst and Young is investing roughly around 12,000 crores in on just technology transformation. So that's the impact which is going to come to our industry. Now, talking about the scenario, what is the current future of a CA? So, as I said, the current future, the analogy which I have used, what is the future of CA? What is the future based on? So, there are three facets on which the future is based on for our profession. The first is the generative AI and machine learning, the chat GPTs and the Google bars and everything. This is primarily the base on which a lot of products, a lot of things are coming up. Talk about anything and everything which we do. Let us include the basic, the smallest of the things, the tele accounting software, or probably thinking about the biggest, which is the SAP or the Microsoft Dynamics 365. Everybody is trying to encash this. Now, as professionals or as chartered accountants, if we need to sustain this for a longer period, we will have to do the same. So that's the primary thing. Blockchain technology. Blockchain is a technology which has not been used much by the professionals, but that's what the whole future is going to be based on. It is going to safeguard the way things are shaping up for us, be it the digitization of records, database, or everything. This all things are going to be based on the blockchain. And the third is the robotic process automation, or we say RPA, as they say. RPAs. So say for example, we are working in on our computers. The repetitive things that we do for a lot of our clients can be easily automated, and that is what is being happening right now in a lot of spheres. So as I said, E and Y, Ernst and Young, when they made this investment, they are investing heavily on RPA. They are investing big time on RPA because they're trying to automate the repetitive task. HDFC Bank, Axis Bank, these people, these banks, big companies, they are also trying to repetitive the credit assessment process. All these things are getting automated. Now, what are the resources, free resources available to us if we want to channelize this? These are some of the things which are available, and this is what we are going to use with us in the coming presentations. So, the first, or this is something which a lot of things which we would have heard already. Chat GPT. A lot of a few of the professionals would definitely have heard about ChatGPT. They would have used ChatGPT, Google Bard, Microsoft Copilot, Llama. Pardon the one of the issue over the things I've repeated Google Bard, but there are a lot and lot. To put in context, there are 10,000 plus tools available in the market which can be used for us. More than 10,000. But the real question is, how many of them do we use? How many of them do we implement? But as we go ahead in the presentation or in the webinar, we will learn about newer ways on how can we channelize this, newer ways how we can use this. So that's what the whole thing is about. What is a clear and a very easy and a most efficient way of adopting technology? It's a three-step process. Evaluate. Evaluate the technology resources which are available with you right now. Evaluate what is there in the market right now, and just stay updated. You need to do a lot of study about this. The second aspect, in fact, the second after the evaluation phase comes is investing. Invest in developing skills. Invest in AI. Invest in cybersecurity. Invest in cloud computing. Invest. Spend your time. Your time is going to be your investment. And the third thing, collaborate. You cannot do everything on your own. We cannot write accounts on our own. We cannot write accounts in Tally in Excel sheet. That's the reason we collaborate with Tally or any other ERPs. That way, collaborate with other professionals. Try to incorporate the practices these people are having and do this. Absolutely, it's a no-brainer to do this. So that's a very simple three-phase product. Evaluate, invest, and collaborate. That's going to drive our future. As I always say, tech is not just about doing things faster. It is about doing things the impossible, and that too today. So that's what the context of the presentation is. Here are my connect details which I put in on the screen. Probably we can have a chat around how can with this channelize it. But that's more about the presentation. Now there's no more presentation. We are going to talk. We are going to practically see what are the things going to be. Meghaji, with this context, I would request, in case there is some question which is coming in between when I'm showcasing the demo, do stop me, because it's important we solve things in a very a specific manner.
Sure, sir.
Sure, right. So we start off for a small scenario. So let me share another screen with you. Chat GPT, the most famous of the tool which is available. I think it should be there on the screen now. People should be able to see. A lot of small scale firms are actually figuring out a lot of ways to try and minimize the time that they spend in mundane tasks. All right. So going for the basics, this is something which is a chat GPT. You can see the screen, like you can go to chat.openai.com and you can have this. I personally use a paid version, so hence I can see this GPT-4, which gives you a lot of other details. Now let's pick up some example. I am based out of Ahmedabad. One of my friend is there. He is running a traditional CA firm, which is around 20, 25 years old. They are into traditional, they do income tax, they do direct taxes, indirect taxes, simple thing. Now the challenge point comes for them is they are wanting to create a firm profile. But before we put this in a form of a presentation, or we put this in a form of something, they face this problem that Rushabh, I need a specific write-up about my firm, because this is something which we shared in a document. So let's pick this up as a case and see how this can be automated. Again, whatever we put in here in the search bar is something called prompt. The specific that you go, the specific output that you are going to get. We have to be very specifically mentioning about things. So let's pick it up. Meghaji, I'll use your city, Lucknow, for example. We are a traditional PA firm based out of Lucknow since the past 25 years. Our main core areas of practice includes direct tax compliance, audit and assurance, and and GST compliance. That's simple. I'm not going into any more details. We are required to prepare a firm profile capturing the details and send it across through an email. Let's try to keep it a bit interactive. Meghaji, let's assume this is something which you were required to make. What do you think? How much time would it take for you to prepare this profile if you had to do it from a scratch?
It would take approximately 4 to 5 days.
4 to 5 days, right?
Definitely.
So, right. So let's see. And again, so the reason it will take 4 to 5 days is because you have to think around all the things that you've been working, make
Yes.
these things and things, right? So
And most
just
of the time, it takes an editing. Editing the sheet takes a lot of
yes,
time.
yes. And let's assume now, have you used ChatGPT before?
Yes, sir. But I have, but for law purposes, I was a little skeptical because it was not giving such accurate answers. So I
Okay,
stopped
okay,
using it.
fine. So let's see. I've written it. So let's see how does ChatGPT take this. Uh, okay, here we go. We have written very specific details. We have not done anything. Let's see. Let's see how can we help Meghaji by reducing the time frame from 4 to 5 days. So here is what. So as we can see, this technology is trying to use a lot of our information that we have given. It has given a brief form profile. It has given an email template. Like, okay, this is our profile. This is something which we can use. Now, say, taking a step beyond this. Let's assume that we have to share a PPT. Okay, so what we have done is we have just specifically tried to cover a business profile, what should be a presentation contain, how it should be this. So essentially, this is what I think Megaji will reduce at least a day from your mindset. Like this reduces a day from what you have to do. Okay, so from expected timeline of 4 days, we are down to 3 days. Now, why 3 days will happen is once we have this thing in the mindset, we have things in the mind very clear that okay, this is what we are right to do, this is what we have to do. Now it's about implementation and preparing a PowerPoint presentation. So now going a step beyond this, now let us see. So this is some another app called gamma.app. This is what we use. So again, you may be able to use this for free. I'll just log in so that you can have a look at how we can reduce this. Okay, so the screen is visible. Now let's take things ahead. Now this is an app where you will get some free credits to use. You can make presentations. Now continuing the same thing, let us go ahead and create a presentation. So ideally, as we discussed, we were on 3 days. So let's create a new generate. Let's generate. We want to generate presentation. Let's take this up. It's we have already done the brainstorming what we need and what not we need. A presentation for CA firm based out of Lucknow. Let's copy from there only. Let's not spell. We have just copied what we have written there. And this is another tool. Like now, assuming that we have not used the chat GPT, and this is something which we are using it, we can do either. The moment we put this across, it will generate some pointers, which essentially chat GPT also did for us. So it showcases what it is. But here's what the magic comes in. When we continue, it is going to ask you for some of the designs. What do we choose? So feel free to choose whatever you want. Let's pick it up some good design and let's see. So Meghaji, here we go. We started with 4 days. We've reduced a day. So now let's see how much days can be reduced now from this. As you can see, this is something which is getting created. The PPT is being automated. This is absolutely being done on its own. This is just a rough example of how things can be done. Now, if we want to increase, we want to decrease, we can do a lot of stuff. But this is just an ideation of what things can be done through a simple scenario. As simple. So this is just an example. Don't consider this because I have to cover 4 or 5 things under the domain which I am required to do. So I won't be able to go much into the details, but this gives you an idea. All right, you can draft your mails. Like you got an email, right? This is like what this is. You can draft your proposal. Let's take up a proposal. Let's draft a proposal. For firm ABC company is required to send a proposal to a pharma manufacturing company for the internal audit services. The proposal should highlight our professional approach and expertise on the subject matter. These are the cases why I'm picking this up because these are the practical cases which a lot of people face it. Like the youngsters, the young CAs which come because they do not have a background. So they always rely. So what they do is they talk to their friends, they talk to seniors to try and help with them, some format, some this. Whereas some of the seniors which I am working with, they are also facing this, like to use technology, they face this challenge of incorporating this. So this is what can be used. Let's So what I've written is simple. Our firm is required to send an internal audit proposal for a pharma manufacturing company. It should try to help us cover our professional approach, expertise. Our fees will be this, and it has to be a detailed one. Now, essentially, what we do is whenever such proposal, we either draft it over a Word document or we send it through a template, a presentation, or directly by way of a mail. So this is where things can get very simpler for you. So let's see how does it shape up. The proposal submitted to by the summary of our company, our fee structure, what shall be our contents, what shall be our objectives, and not just the contents. It is actually drafting each and everything that we do. So how it happens? Say for example, once we have this, you can use this, you can edit it the way you want. So probably this can actually help you reduce 80 to 90% of the time that we spend. Do not consider reducing your time frame by 100%. It will help you to reduce by 80-90%. That's how it is. Now, as you can say, we could see everything. What will be table of contents, this. Now, let's take a step behind. I am also required to prepare a checklist on the process I will follow for this assignment. Help me prepare the checklist. Ideally speaking, what will be there? We would have a checklist in mind. But every industry has a different checklist. So what happens is in case we don't have, we can. So what can be the checklist? What can be the information requirements? A lot of things will be there. So as we can see, this is an internal service checklist. What will happen at the first stage? The engagement letter. What will be the process? How will you plan? Each and everything can be done. See, the reason why we should ideally adopt technology at this stage is because this is a stage where our expertise is not needed. This is a phase which requires labor work. Preparing an engagement letter is a labor work, but doing the audit, understanding the anomalies, discussing with the management, that's where the whole scenario is done. This is one of the very simplest of use cases which can be done. I'm just assuming, Meghaji, we are not having any questions, and that's the reason I'll be moving on to the next one. Now, you can understand the use cases. What are the GST compliance? You can prepare a GST compliance proposal. You can do a lot of stuff. Now, going a step beyond, a lot of things. So this is Chat GPT. Let me show you another tool which is called Google Bard. Google Bard is an alternative to Chat GPT. So let us try and see Google Bard and how can it help. I'll share the screen again. This is Bard. Go to Bard, Google, and search for Bard. You'll see this. It can do anything and everything. So now let's try to work with Google Bard. The beauty of Google Bard is Bard is integrated with all your Google applications. So remember, now so I have a friend of mine called Vandit. I had sent him a mail some time back on certain things, but I don't remember when it was. The immediate thing that I try to do is I go to a Gmail and try to search. But that's something. So this Google Bard will do this for me. Let's do this. I had a friend called Vandit Vaishnav, and he had sent a mail last year to me. Can you please check Gmail and help me find those mails? See, this is something Google bar now. Meanwhile, while the time Google is trying to analyze this, and the beauty of technology today is that this is a generative AI. Generative is like we are talking. It is as if that the opposite person is talking with us. We can discuss, we can channelize these things. So as you could see, it got me all the mails that we could find out. Okay, here it is. It will go to Gmail and will open up those mail for me. As simple as this. That's it. Now imagine another use case. Uh, Before we jump onto the professional use case, there was some video which you would have seen on a YouTube, but you don't remember what it was. A lot of things. You can ask Google Bard to go to search and a lot of do such things. So imagine putting it like, okay, I remember I had seen a video of Kunal Shah some time back. It was some this video. Go and search my YouTube history and find it for me. Google Bard will do that for you. As simple as this. Now let's see. So now this is an impact. Now the good part about Google Bard is Google Bard uses all the products of Google: YouTube, Drive, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Simple use case. We all use Microsoft Excel. We all use Word. We all use Microsoft PowerPoint. All right. We can ask Google and the Chat GPT to draft or make Excel formulas for us. That is another very useful case. The problem with Excel and formulas is we know the input that we have, we know what output do we want, but we don't know what formula to put. And the major challenge comes in how do you search for that formula? So that is where you can use these tools. Simple. Okay, a professional. So I before coming to the lecture, I had one thing. So there was an image which came to me. Let me show that image, and then we'll do a financial analysis of that image to understand the analytical capabilities of Google. So this is a company. Let me share this. This is the screen, this is a company based out of Mumbai. There are certain numbers. This is basically a co-working space. So as we can see, there are 5 years, and this is basically a calculation of what revenue and what shall be the EBITDA margins around that. This is an estimation that we have done. Now, when it comes to us, we as professionals, we would be required to analyze this and prepare ratios and a lot of things. So let us see how we can use technology to do the basic things. This is something where you can improvise and try and use the tools that are available to at least reduce a lot of work. So let's get back. Okay, what we have to do is, as you can see, there is an image over here. We use this. We upload this image. Help read this image. Help me analyze the numbers with specific ratio. Which are the ratios? Let's ask a further question. Which are the ratios which should be relevant, and how will it impact the future of this company? Simple, right? So what we have uploaded is just a simple image and trying to understand what can be done to do this. Let's see. So what will Google or the technology will do? It will go, it will analyze, and it is going to give us results. So it is going to Now, this is essentially a job that we give to people in our office. This is a job that we give to the articles we have, but we do not rely on them. That's the reason we are required to do a lot of stuff on our own. So that is where this now, as you can see, the ratios applicable has come in the occupancy rate, the revenue, this, EBITDA, and everything. The analysis has come in. You can read it. Like companies' occupancy rate has increased steadily in past years from 58% to 92%. The company is doing well. Impact on the future, company's EBITDA margin, company's revenue per seat. We can do a lot of things that we can. What I have helped a lot of people in my known circle is we have just completed the audit season. A lot of the audits have been done. Now I have quite a few friends who are working in the project finance domain. So there are the CMA sheets that we are required to prepare. So what we do is we go to the chat GPT tool. We ask them, okay, these are the numbers. Prepare the whole, when this is the format, prepare the whole CMA sheet. And the tool does it of its own. That's how it is. Let's see one another example. Let's go back to chat GPT. The reason I'm shifting from chat GPT and Google is the primary difference. Google Bard, which we are using, does not have the capabilities of uploading a PDF or a Word or anything. It can just accept image format as of now. Google ChatGPT, I am a paid user of ChatGPT, and that's the reason ChatGPT allows me to upload anything. I can upload anything. So yesterday only, I had written an article to be submitted for the association. It was one of the CA association based out of Ahmedabad. Now that's a 3-pager. No, I do not have the time to read the whole article. So what we can do is see the capability. So this is just an example, and we can extrapolate. You can do n number of things. Read this document and summarize it for me in 4 to 5 points. Make sure that I do not miss the main highlights from this article. We are talking about a 3 to 4-pager article, and I want to specifically summarize into 4 to 5 pages points. Simple. So this is what the system will do on its own. The system will go back, will channelize a lot of things, and here is a summary. As you could see, you could find the summary. So this is the power of technology as what we can see. Audit reports, annual reports. You can analyze, you can upload an annual report of a listed company and ask, okay, what are the numbers? What are the revenue numbers? What are these numbers? You can do that. We are working with a listed company. They have adopted this technology to do the vetting, because whenever the annual reports are being required to be shared and to be uploaded on the exchange and the filings have to be done, a lot of manual labor work goes on the vetting, and a lot of things happen on that. So that's how immense the thing is. In the last portion of the session that we are going to do, trying to cover at the presentations, coming back to this app called Gamma. Now, imagine you are going to provide a service. You are providing service to a real estate company. You do not know the implications. So let's create a presentation of said like a presentation on the real estate market in Gujarat and the complications around it. Say for example, I am trying to pitch to a real estate developer where I would require to give an industry overview. So the moment we do this, we write it. So this is a prompt that we give. So it will give us a lot of details, what should be covered, what should not be covered, all these things. And the moment we go ahead and we pick up a theme and we just do it, it will create this whole presentation for me. Now, this presentation is not necessarily the only thing that we can rely on. That you can make changes to this presentation. So as you can see, this is a presentation. It has included the images. It has given an industry overview. It has done a lot of stuff. So say, for example, this, we want, again, we want to do something. We can do a lot of things. Let's see the change which keeps happening. So all the changes which are happening, so the presentation is ready. So this is what I generally do. However, today I tried to avoid this. Otherwise, what I do is I generally don't make any presentations. Whenever or whatever event is, I go to this presentation and I make presentation there and there itself. But these are some of the ways which you can do. Now the moment you go to a presentation view, that's how you can use it. The market and everything. You can convert this into PPT format. You can do this. A lot of stuff can be done around this. Now, this is essentially what the whole technology adoption for our future is going to be. The future is going to be based out of technology. There are routine stuff. Example, let us take some of the examples that we have worked on. TDS compliance. These are manual things which we do every month. We use a software, but still there is a lot of manual labor work that we do. A lot of things, a lot of checking that we do. Whether this thing is matching with this thing is not, this thing does not match. A lot of things like this keep on happening and keep on coming to us. So what we do is that is where we can use and channelize this. Some of the last portion of the session, before we hop on to the question answers, any other thing which people want to ask, we'll move on to that. But let me show some of the tools which are available. The main, one of the important thing is people come to me and ask, Rishabh, how do I find these tools? I want to use, but I don't know where the tools are available. So that's what it is. Talking about the first tool, which was an Excel formula. Now, this is something where a lot of people are struggling to make this formula because people feel that they are no more conversant. They're not as conversant with Excels and words. But there is this software. So this is something called Excel Formula Bot. So there's a formulabot.com. That is what the whole is. It will help you create formulas of your own. So rather than trying to understand how is the formula done, you can make formulas on the own. So let's log in so that I can show you how. I do not use this the paid version of this, but I think they give some 5 to 6 formulas. You can generate formulas for Excel, Google Sheets. You can do a lot of things. You can make spreadsheets. You can upload a spreadsheet and ask it to create graphs, to create reports, a lot of things. And meanwhile, so this is something, first of the things which may be useful to a lot of people. Google of late has started there's generative AI. So let's go to Google and as I said in the starting, ENY had made some investment on AI. Now, what we do is when we want to find this, we go and search investment made by EY on AI. So what we do is we get this, right? Now government, so there is a new tab called Converse, which has come on your Google. What you can do is you can go there and you can ask more and more questions about it. So this is something which is going to change the way we have been doing things. I know a couple of CA firms which are based, one is based out of Mumbai, one is based out of Bangalore. They are trying to automate the accounting things. I think this was a company, Indian Tax GPT or something, has also come in. So what they've done is the whole Income Tax Act has, okay, no, it's some so what they've done is they've put the whole Income Tax Act on their portal, and what they are trying to do, so yeah, it's Indian Tax GPT. And it's a text chatbot. Probably what they've done is they have incorporated the whole Income Tax Act over there, and people can ask questions of it on what is the TDS rate, what are the things. I think there is some network issue here in this moment, hence it's not working. But this is Tally. Tejas Goenka, he recently made a couple of months ago, he made a statement that, okay, this Tele is working on technology and they are trying to incorporate a lot of technology tools, which is going to change it. So the use cases are immense. Now there are two websites which I'm going to show, which contains everything around the AI. One is allthingsai.com and the other is futurepedia.io. Allthingsai.com is a discovery platform for AI tools. So it will help you find out all the possible tools which are available in the market. You want to write, it's an email writing, AI writing tools, writing editing tools. It gives you anything, chat, education. So as you can, once you go on this website, you'll be able to see. Okay, sorry. So go to this website, and it will show you everything, all design, image, video, writing, chatting, all the tools will be available over here. So that's the first website, allthingsai.com. And the second thing is futurepedia.io. Futurepedia.io. These are the two tools. So Futurepedia, you go here, you see all the categories. You want an email assistant, you'll find out an email assistant, which will show you how do you write your emails. You can automate replying to the mails. You can automate. So these are the apps. It shows all the apps which are available in the market. Subject line generator. It can. So this is something which came today. Receptor.ai. It will read your emails, pick up the Excel sheets. It will put it in the Google folder. Simple. But these are some of the tools which can use. So this is the power of the technology today. Too many things are available. It is up to us to see what all things can be channelized, what all things can be used, and what are things. Blockchain is a different topic in itself, as well as so is RPA, robotic process automations. Essentially, I don't think it can be combined and covered in this. Hence, not touching, we just touch the base about how things can be done. But that's it from my side, Meghaji. Probably if we can have some questions, if people are having questions, we can discuss that.
Yes, sir. I have two questions. I just got them. Is India ready for blockchain? Also, is it possible for chartered accountants in practice to work around it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Blockchain is an upcoming technology where chartered accountants come as a forefront, because ultimately this is all about maintaining data. So we can be a very pivotal part of the auditing or the assurance aspect of the blockchain. The blockchain technology. So I think, if I'm not wrong, there is a institute course or a guidance material also on the available on a blockchain, which helps us shape the future of. So you can the professional who's wanting to know, they can explore this. But I know a couple of friends who have done blockchain certifications and are doing quite well in this.
Very nice. Sir, the second question, will working on Excel end as at data entry stage itself and the base report is created with good data entry, then it will generate reports in Excel thereafter? I'm sorry, the language is a little abrupt. Will working on Excel will it end as the data entry stage, as at data entry stage itself, the base report is created with good data entry. Then it will generate reports in Excel. Thereafter, what all kinds of reports will be available in Excel already, Excel ready made, then I'm sorry, sir, the language is a little
So,
abrupt. I'm
okay,
not
let
able
me
to.
try to interpret it in my
Okay.
way.
Yes, sir.
Let us assume that we are required to do a data entry in Excel and prepare reports. So this is an ideal use case this happen.
Okay.
Data entry can be automated. Simple. Example,
Ah,
I can download a bank statement from online. Say, I can download that bank statement in an Excel format. I can give it to any of the technologies which are available. I can ask it to read the statement, ask them to make the journal entries, and probably prepare a report on the spendings on its own. This report will also give the numbers. This report will also give the charts, graphs, and a lot of things. So, a lot of things can be done. And going a step beyond that, this also can be automated. So, there is a tool called Zapier, which is an automation tool. Zapier, what does it do is the moment we connect Zapier, a new mail comes in with this attachment. You can train that, okay, if there is a mail coming from Rushabh, pick up that attachment, go to my drive, go to this folder, replace this file, and on that basis make an entry. So this whole channel or flow can be automated.
Sir, whether blockchain requires comparatively more space on computers?
Yes, essentially, yes, as compared to the traditional computing power that we use or that we have been using, it requires more because of the technology lying underneath it. So it is definitely going to be the case. Again, one of the questions before we take on the other questions, and I should have covered this. Technology consulting is one of the primary areas where CAs are trying to earn a lot of money. Let me give you an example. Everybody would have heard the concept of Oracle. Like there's a company called Oracle. They make their ERPs. There are Oracle ERPs, there are Oracle software. When this ERP, so all these ERPs have CRMs, HR models, and SAPs and everything. When we come to the financial modeling or the financial module in this ERPs, they need robust systems. Example, a company is having branches in 10 countries. They are using an Oracle based ERP. So Oracle helps in the consolidation of accounts which we are required to do. When Oracle is customizing their ERP, this is where they are employing CAs. They want CAs who can consult them on this aspect. How does a consolidation happen? We are not required to do any coding. We are not required to code anything. We are required to explain to the coders that this is what it is. So tech consulting is one of the very, very niche areas of CA's practice, which is on the rise. To give a context in terms of numbers, a company which essentially is spending 1 to 2 CR over a software, say for example, they are implementing SAP worth around 1.5 crores. The implementation and consulting of this migration from the old system to the new, and consulting and implementation and training of this, which is being done by a CA, will give you a fees of roughly around 15 to 20 lakhs spread over 4 to 5 months. So that is probably one of the future. And again, as I said, accounts or not finance, but accounts is an ignored area. So when we talk about technology tools, there are not much technology tools which have been designed, but you can do that. You probably, some of us, some of professionals would have done that. Some of our professionals can do a GST reconciliation automation tool, TDS reconciliation automation tool. Anything and everything can be done. There are n number of possible things which can be done. So that is something on the future of this. And again, I have this. I will specifically tell this: AI is never ever going to take away our jobs or work, but somebody who is knowing AI better than us, that person will definitely take ahead, will always be preferred than us in terms of work. So that is how the outlook of the companies are going to change, the outlook of the future is going to change. Yep.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really a very insightful session, and I've written all the websites which you've told, and it was really very helpful. Thank you so much, sir. I look forward to
Thank,
talking to you in future.
yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishabh ji, in absentia of Chairman Purushottam ji and Vice Chairman Gan sir. I am Ajit Tiwari, Secretary of CP Committee, sir. I would like to inform you today, even I have had, this session for, total 1 hour time. This is one of the very few sessions in which, I stayed back for total time duration. Because, with so many programs we are doing. But of course, this is, very good feedback. I can give it to you personally. Of course, all the faculties are good. But since this topic is very new, and this was very much interesting, sir. I can tell you, I was doing same time, some sort of, work on my computer while, listening to you. So
Wow,
I can,
glad to hear that.
so I can, sense and I can feel what kind of feedback the participant they must have. Maybe they are not
Yeah.
writing, in this Excel and all those things. But as a secretary of committee, very great thank to you. Today, even I have, learned very new things that I have learned,
Yeah.
that PPT, creating, message or a company profile, all those things. And not for only chartered accountant, but for, any of the professional. Those are very much helpful, I can tell you, sir. So once again, a great thanks to you for such a wonderful session. Thanks to you,
Thank
Megha
you.
ji, also, and for moderating the session so, in very good manner. Thank you, Megha ji, from my side.
Um,
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, participants.
Thank you.